What is going on, all you beautiful people? This is Manufactured Opinion here, bringing you the Bioshock Infinite super awesome melee/shotgun build. And one of the best things about Bioshock Infinite is all of the experimentation you can do with all of the different vigors and weapon combinations. And actually, now that I think about it, with all of the Bioshocks, it holds true for all of them, all the different experimentation you could do with the different plasmids and the different weapons in those games, you know, it's really fun to figure out what build suits your playstyle, and then you can go back and try different builds on maybe a harder difficult, maybe a melee-only build, or use some plasmids/vigors that you didn't before. So, you know, it's a really good time to experiment with that kind of stuff. And I figured I'd showcase to you guys the build that I used on my first playthrough, and a build, you know, that I think is kind of overpowered, but we'll get into that. Yep, like right there. I pretty much destroyed all of them with just one charge. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to touch on, first and foremost, all of those little segments I was going through at the beginning of this video. So I have Charge fully upgraded. I have my Shotgun fully upgraded. And for gear, I have the Burning Halo hat, I have the Executioner shirt, I have the Vampire's Embrace boots, and I have the Brittle-Skinned pants. Now, the Brittle-Skinned pants are what I think makes this build overpowered. But once again, I will touch on that later in the video. There are a few things I want to note before I get into the good old meat and potatoes of the video. First and foremost, all of the clips of this video on hard mode, just so you can get some context. And secondly, you heard me mention my gear like 30 seconds ago. The gear is random for the most part in this game, so depending on what point of the game you are at, and if you're following a guide for every single gearbox location, you may not have these pieces of gear ever in the game. But I do have a method for you to grab pretty much every single piece of gear in this game. Specifically, you can grab every single piece of gear I'm using in this game pretty early on in the game. So I will put an annotation in the video to that, just in case you want to emulate this build 100%. Okay, so now that we got the lame introductions out of the way, let's get into what makes this build so awesome sauce McGee. To me, in my mind, it's really two things. One, it's the fact that the fully upgraded Charge Vigor is absolutely amazing. Now, all of the other Vigors are pretty damn good, but there's just something about Charge that makes it absolutely awesome. I don't know if it's the shield regen, the massive explosive damage, or the brief invulnerability. I mean, pick which one. Those are all awesome. That combined with the Brittle-Skinned pants, a piece of gear, just makes this build insanely overpowered, and here's why. Every time you charge into an enemy, if you have it fully upgraded, you will be regenerating your shields, like I said. You will be briefly invulnerable, and with the Brittle-Skinned pants, you will be doing 2 times damage for 5 seconds. So if you have any weapon fully upgraded, it doesn't even have to be the shotgun. If you don't like the shotgun, you like the pistol, you like the RPG, whatever it is. I mean, that's got limited ammo, but you know what I mean. Every time you crash into bum rush somebody, you'll be doing 2 times damage. So you can just see how effective this could be against a huge group of enemies. You get them all bunched into one area. You're doing area of effect damage. If you have the Burning Halo on, you're doing an extra 300 damage over 4 seconds. And then you're regenerating health with Vampire's Embrace when you're killing the enemies. You're regenerating your shield. You're essentially invincible. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, you may not have all those pieces of gear. So one thing to keep in mind, when you finally get the Charge Vigor. So one thing to keep in mind is, if you're not going to use the gear exploit in the annotation, is to save your money to upgrade the weapon of your choice, and make sure that you're fully upgrading your shields when you're using your infusions. Now here is my rationale behind that. It is sort of like a Mass Effect 3 Vanguard build. As you see, I just completely destroyed that handyman with this build. I didn't even have to use my shotgun there if I didn't want to. I could just straight up melee him the whole time, and I wouldn't even lose any health. I would just keep regenerating my shields. And so, anyways, one thing to keep in mind is to upgrade your shields with your infusions. Now, like I said, to all those Mass Effect 3 players out there, the Vanguard was dead if you could not keep your shields fully recharged, and that is the only downfall of this build, is that unless you know where every single infusion location is, and you can kind of, you know, keep your salts in pace with your shield upgrades, that will be the only downfall of this build. And trust me, it happened to me numerous times. You have to use Charge to stay alive with this build, and if you run out of salts, you're essentially screwed. So one of the things that I did for a while is you can substitute some of your gear. Instead of the burning halo, I would use the ammo cap, and instead of using the executioner shirt, I would use the blood to salt shirt. So every time I was killing an enemy, I was regenerating my salts until I was able to get to a point where I could, charge multiple enemies, find salts on the battlefield, and then keep using it without being taken out of combat for that long. These are all things you have to take into consideration if you're going to want to use this build. And let me tell you, as soon as you get the charge, if you haven't tried out that charge vigor, it is an insane amount of fun. I highly recommend it. Using just skyhooking noobs in the face is just a great time. I love this game. I hope you guys are loving this game as well. Hopefully you kind of got a sense of my logic behind the build I was using for most of the game. And I'm really interested to hear what your ideas for cool builds are in the comment section. What you used on your first playthrough. Maybe some of the vigors and weapons that go well with this charge build. Because to be completely honest, I used charge and charge only for most of as soon as I got it from there on. I used maybe shock jockey a few times to supplement some dudes that I charged into, but for the most part, I wanted to save my charge I wanted to save my salts for as many charges as possible so I could see noobs melt on the battlefield. But anyways, you guys have to let me know some of your builds in your first playthroughs and maybe some of the ideas you have for builds in maybe a 1999 mode or something like that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really hope that you're enjoying Bioshock Infinite. And as always, enjoy life, everybody. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye now.